Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Parker Jackson Today. That's right, for those of you who don't know, I am back. It's been a long time coming as well. And we do have a packed show for you all today. First time back on television in over 2 years, so I'm very excited about that. And let's just say the show has been chaos from the start. And one thing that I like with my shows is I like a little bit of fun, and so I think everybody's gonna have fun today. So yeah, over the time for the show, we're gonna have fun, look on the headlines, and speak with some of my old and new friends from across the platform. So coming up on today's show, though, we have our first ever co-host joining me in the first ever segment of the First Five. We'll explain more about that in just a second. Along with that, we're going to do Parker's Payout, and Toddy Turns Left is going to join us to speak more on his radio career and his recent new radio station that he just started, so we're very excited for that. But with that said, it's time for the First Five, so let's have everybody follow me over to the desk, and we're going to get started. And well, this segment is new to any of my shows that I've done, and I've always wanted to try it as well. So you're probably like, what the hell's going on? Well, this segment is going to be during each episode, the first 5 minutes we're going to take to talk about the headlines, the news, pop culture, anything that's going on. We're going to bring it to this table. And each episode, we're going to have a different co-host. It could be you at home as a viewer. It could be a friend. And today we're starting with a dear friend of mine, a dear coworker. And if you watched my shows before, you'll remember him as the chief weather anchor on Parker Jackson Live. And now he's back to join us. So please welcome Grady Catalano joining us once again to be our first ever co-host of the first five. So go ahead and come on out, Grady, and we're going to get started.
Hey!
Grady, welcome. Take a seat. We're so glad to have you here today. Tell our audience hello, and
Hi.
Get started. How have you been? We haven't talked in a long time. How have you been doing?
Well, I mean, again, just like yourself, it's been 2 years since I went onto Roblox television, and it's glad to be back to, make a fresh start in 2025.
Yeah, you're right. And this segment is all about the headlines. And the first segment we're going to talk about is this crazy start to 2025. And that is the tragic terrorist attack that occurred in New Orleans over the New Year's weekend. Once again, a very tragic event. And we're going to cut to an OBC News report to catch you up. And then we're going to talk about it right now. So we're going to watch this report, and we'll be right back.
Now to that newly released body camera video of the deadly shootout with the New Orleans terror suspect. The video shows the dramatic gunfire exchange on New Year's Day. Shamsuddin Jabbar died at the scene after ramming his pickup truck into a crowd of revelers on Bourbon Street. And tonight, the injured police officers are now out of the hospital. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
2 police officers involved in the shootout with the man behind the deadly New Year's Day terror attack in New Orleans, now home from the hospital tonight. Their recovery comes as New Orleans police released an edited, dramatic body camera video showing 42-year-old suspect Shamsuddin Jabbar immediately opening fire on officers just moments after he plowed through a crowd on Bourbon Street, killing 14 and injuring dozens. In the nearly 12-second clip of the encounter, officers ordered Jabbar to surrender before a barrage of gunshots erupt. One slow-motion clip shows the suspect's hand and the deployed airbag. Inside that white pickup truck, flammable liquid seen here in photos first obtained by ABC News. Officials fearing Jabbar's deadly rampage could have been worse had he been able to detonate those homemade explosive devices found nearby.
Officers are trained for shoot scenarios like that. They are highly trained. And that's what you saw. These are split-second decisions.
The Louisiana Attorney General announcing a full investigation into any operational security failures that day. And as the city looks for answers tonight, the heartbreak lingers. Family and friends remembering 18-year-old Nakira Dido, the youngest of the lives lost in that New Year's Day tragedy, which she was laid to rest today.
All right, Morgan Norwood for us. Thank you.
And wow, Grady, what a tragic day that occurred. Again, New Year's Day, 3 in the morning, that truck plowing through everybody. I mean, just a crazy way to start 2025, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is a massive, crazy start. If you had a list of things that would happen to start off your year, this would not be on your bingo card. So, very tragic.
No, and I mean, the story goes, and I don't know if you've been paying attention to it, but I saw 2 headlines over the weekend.
Yeah.
First of all, they already were predicting this, and you were talking to me about this behind stage. They were already telling that 2025, there could be something going on with terrorist attack. As you know, living in the United States, there hasn't been a major terrorist attack in our country in a very long time, so it's very tragic that it happened. But you were saying earlier that there was planning behind it.
I mean, there have been warning signs before this. I get that sometimes investigative efforts can fail and sometimes not proper action is taken. just based on certain middle moving parts. But there are several videos hours before the Bourbon Street attack happened. This Army veteran, U.S.-born citizen in Texas, Shamsuddin Jabbar, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's been proclaiming his support for ISIS in these videos, so he obviously had support. His family has stated in reports that he was going to go take a trip to Egypt last year for a month because it was cheap and beautiful, quote unquote. And he brought a lot of things back with him. It was like jewelry, very nice jewelry. So, I mean, something must have happened when he was in the Middle East. I know I'm not going to put my entire blame on the Middle East, but I feel like something happened with his experience in Egypt that formed this radicalization. That's my prediction, and I think investigators are going to try and figure that out.
Well, something else that I think is very, very alarming, in my opinion, is that, like you said, this was a military veteran that was radicalized by an ISIS group. So how in the world is a U.S. military veteran getting involved with ISIS and stuff? Like, that's another concerning thing. Another thing, and I was telling you about this earlier, is that I don't know if anybody's seen, but the report that came out the other day is that the New Orleans police superintendent, basically the chief of police there, they realized the day after that they actually had barriers to protect the sidewalks, and that's where that truck really rode onto that road and got around the police car that was blocking the street, got onto the sidewalk, and was really able to plow down as many people as he could in the path. So that is another very interesting aspect. I don't understand how you can have that big of a failure with that big of people around, right?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with that, and I think that just goes to show that you should always be safe, even if you think you're in a very safe country. I think we're a really great country, but that doesn't mean we don't have issues. I think every country has issues, of course. And especially when in our history we have fallen to such terrorist attacks, maybe not by this small of a scale, but we've had large scale attacks, especially with September 11th. But you should be asking yourself, and politicians and other people should be asking themselves this: we should still be keeping our cities safe, even though we might be deemed a safer country than others. I think it's not a sign of weakness to say that we have weaknesses, and I also don't think I think it's an even more sign of weakness to say that you're not going to fix them, or you're not going to do anything to prevent such problems from happening. So that's one thing that
and in my opinion, the excuse as far as the barriers go, like, she's like, we didn't know we had them. Well, you're in charge of keeping people safe. How do you not know what resources you have in your own city? So just a crazy, crazy way to start 2025 off. And I'm praying that it gets better after this. But
me too. Yeah.
With that said, we're going to move on to a lighter note this morning. And Apple Music has ranked their top songs of 2024. Here's the list right now. Number 5, Cruel Summer with Taylor Swift. 4, Bar Song Shabuzi. 6, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. That was, of course, very popular this year. Right. 2, Beautiful Things, Benson Boone, another popular song. And the number 1 song on the list, can you guess what it is?
The number 1 song I thought was going to be Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter. I have a feeling it feels more like an underdog song, and I think it was Kendrick Lamar, right?
Yes, it was Not Like Us. Kendrick Lamar, of course, that song, that diss track on Drake, which was very funny. But what do you think the list?
I think there are a couple names that, of course, did not surprise me. I think Espresso was going to be on there because Sabrina topped the charts earlier in the year. Taylor Swift, of course, always tops the charts, and I had a prediction is that if Taylor Swift was going to again top the charts, it was not going to be from the Tortured Poets department. Just simply because I feel like this album doesn't have that, tastefulness that, say, Lover, that album with Cruel Summer, and just simply all her other albums. I think this was more of an outcast. People have noted on social media that Taylor Swift, it sounds like she's doing an impression of herself. So, I mean, I don't really care what people say online. My personal opinion is that as you go through the album, the more dragged out it gets, and I think that's what lost interest.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I will say about Sabrina Carpenter is I'm proud of her. I'm really proud of her because I don't know if you ever watched her, but she was on a Disney Channel show. She was a small Disney Channel show star.
Yeah, she was on Girl Meets World.
Yeah, she took a break from the spotlight for who knows, maybe 4 or 5 years, and now all of a sudden she came out hitting, and she's now one of the top selling artists of the year, and
Right.
the third highest ranking song on Apple Music, so just great for her.
I mean, the only thing I just didn't recognize was her appearance because I think she got, maybe, to put it lightly, minor cosmetic surgery. But I mean, I knew she was an artist because she did an album in like 2015 after right near the end of Girl Meets World. So
Yeah.
I mean, I knew she was a musical artist. And she did pretty decent on the charts even in 2015.
Mhm.
I just think she got a little older now. And I think she wrote a pretty good album. I actually was very proud of her on that one too.
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's just another Disney Channel star that has really made it. Sabrina Carpenter, Miley Cyrus, all of those child actors really have just been pushed into the spotlight. Am I surprised? No, but who knows? Well,
Yeah.
Grady, that was the first five for today. Thank you so much for joining to be the first ever co-host. Of course, we have some heavy topics, some lighter topics, and that's what we're going to talk about every week. Whatever is hitting the headlines, that's what's going to be on this desk every week. So thank you, Grady, for joining us. So glad to catch up.
Of course.
But you're not going to go away yet, because what we're going to do is we're going to take you over to the Parker's Payout Wheel. I don't know if you've seen this on some of my other shows, but we did it for a long time on some of my old shows. So let's go and play Payout. Follow me. All right, we're going to stand next to this wheel now, and I'm going to kind of explain how it works. So I'm going to give you one question. We're going to spin the wheel first. Whatever the wheel lands on will be your prize. So if you get 100, you're going to get 100 Robux, 15. So we're going to spin the wheel right now, and while we spin the wheel, you're going to have one question to answer in 5 seconds, and whatever question you get, if you get it right, you get Robux. If not, you don't have to get anything else. So let's see what you can say. So 30 Robux. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, 5 seconds to answer. Think very carefully. The question of the day is, what is the farthest planet from the sun?
Okay, so it's got to be a colder planet, and I'm assuming it's a bigger one. So I'm going to say Neptune.
That's correct. Congrats, you win the Robux.
Thank you.
And thank you once again. Thank you for joining us today. Once again, it's so great catching up. But for those of you watching at home in the audience, you don't want to go away because we have a jam-packed show coming up after the break. We are going to speak to a dear friend of mine, a good colleague that I work with from now on. It's Toddy. He's going to join us next to talk about his radio career and the new radio station that he just started up. So don't go away. Parker Jackson Today, inaugural episode. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody, to the inaugural episode of Parker Jackson Today. Once again, thank you for joining us. We're having a great time on the show, and it's time to bring out our first ever guest. So our first ever guest is one of the new biggest media personalities, especially on radio, on the Roblox platform today. They work on multiple radio stations. We're going to get to learn a little bit more about how radio works on Roblox, and if you want to listen, if you're interested, they'll tell us to. So please welcome the first ever guest, Toddy, to the stage. Come on out, Toddy. Welcome. We're going to come and take a seat right over here in our little interview area. I hope everybody enjoys the set that we just got to. It looks amazing. Toddy, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing good. How about you?
I am doing amazing. Inaugural episode, like I said, and wow, your career has really launched ever since you joined it. So tell me, how did you get into media? What was your first job? Explain to us how you really got into the radio side of broadcasting.
All right. So, of course, some Tigers left. My first job was at RBC Television. I was mostly when I was joined, I was the social media manager, and I was hired by an executive director named Maxflix. But then I moved up to the head of sports. But then I moved on to the head of radio, and then we didn't create our first radio station for RBC Radio until we met someone named C-Head, who was the founder of Typical Media Group, and thankfully we were able to find a team, create the station, and it launched.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, you have had an amazing takeoff to your career. And so tell us, what is it like doing radio on Roblox? It's something I've always been really interested in. I know there's been certain groups, and I'm still kind of learning how it works. So tell us kind of how it works, what it's like, what's your favorite part. Tell us everything about it.
Doing radio on Roblox feels really good, and it feels really fresh, feels like breathtaking. So how it works is that when you gotta get like a software, something that DJs would use, like Mix or Virtual DJ, but you have to make sure that software you can broadcast it on the different stations. And of course, I've what was the other question?
Well, like, just tell us about your radio career. Like, how does the radio work? What's your favorite part of radio? Everything about it.
Okay, so my favorite part of radio is doing the broadcasting part, which is the best part because I love being on air with with a lot of with a lot of different people, and the colleagues they're the best.
Yeah, and you recently joined a startup called Reboot Radio, and that is a platform online where you stream your radios and stuff. So tell us more about Reboot Radio, how it got started, everything.
So Reboot Radio was a station that was founded by someone named Jobo, and it started only 2 years ago. I became the new co-owner after the last co-owner had to leave. And of
Nice.
course I knew, right. I knew Jobo way before I joined Reboot. He is a presenter for RBC itself in the radio department.
Hmm. And so for anybody that wants to listen to your shows, where can they find you?
Well, I mean, currently as of right now it's down, but you can listen to Reboot Radio on its website, rebootradio.uk, including through our Discord, and of course we do have our own app. It should be called Reboot Radio. You can download it on the App Store or on the Google Play Store.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you heard it right here, if you want to listen to Reboot Radio, you can download it on the App Store, Discord, or the website. Toddy, thank you so much for joining us, but you're not going to go anywhere because after the break, you're going to be the first ever person to sit in my hot seat. We'll explain more after the break. You're watching Parker Jackson Today. And welcome back to our first ever Parker's Hot Seat. As you can see, we've heated up the studio, and Toddy Turns Left is now joining us one more time to be our first ever player on this segment. So, Toddy, I'm going to explain how it works. You're going to have to answer correctly 5 questions, each worth 10 points. So every time you move up a question, you're going to bank 10 points. And then at the max, you'll max out at 50 at the end. So you have 5 questions, and since you do radio, we base them off music today. So you're going to answer these 5 questions. Now, whenever you answer the question, you're going to press that buzzer to lock it in. So as soon as you have the answer in mind, you're going to press the buzzer to lock it in. Something that's new on this segment this time is as soon as you lock it in, you cannot take it back. So if you want to go 3 songs in and you want to take your 30 points, you can leave with those 30 points. If you want to continue going, you can. And I'll explain more as we go along. Are you ready to play?
Yeah.
All right, we're about to test your musical knowledge. Are you ready for the first question?
Ready when you are.
All right. The first question is, who is Kendrick Lamar's song Not Like Us based on? Is it A, Snoop Dogg, B, Drake, or C, Eminem? Remember, lock in your answer. Okay, you've locked in your answer. What is your answer? Is it A, B, or C?
I'm gonna have to go with Drake.
That's correct. So you banked 10 points. Do you want to take those 10 points and leave, or do you want to keep playing to see how far you go?
Let's keep going.
All right, we're gonna go one more time. The next song is Who sings the songs Espresso and Taste? Is it A, Sabrina Carpenter, B, Duff Cameron, or C, Ariana Grande? You can lock in whenever you're ready. You've locked in. What's your answer?
Sabrina Carpenter.
That is correct. So you have 20 points now. Stay or leave?
I'll stay.
All right. Question number 3. Houdini, Training Season, and Illusion are songs all by what artist? Chaperone, Travis Scott, or Dua Lipa?
Chaperone.
Do you lock in your answer?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, Toddy, unfortunately, that is not correct. The correct answer was Dua Lipa. I'm sorry, but Parker's hot seat had burned you. But with that said, we're going to go ahead and just give you your points anyway. And Toddy, once again, I want to thank you for playing. You were the first ever contestant, and thank you for being on our show today. We're so glad to have you on here.
All right, thank you for having me, and I do want to thank you for working with me and everyone else back at the other company for a long time now.
Yes, it was great to catch up, of course, of course. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to wrap up the show with Parker's final words after this. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody, to our inaugural episode. And it's time for Parker's final words. Of course, we had a great show today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Take with what you do. It's been a crazy day filming here. For those of you that were in the audience earlier, know. But with that said, final word is thank you all for joining us. I'm going to give a little tease for the next show. We have a very, very, very important guest that's going to be joining us for the next episode. There will be more to come. You got to tune into our show next week for that. Let's just say they have a lot of political power. So I'm going to say for that. With that said, thank you all for joining, and I hope you all take with the show what you like. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us today on the show. And remember, always make today your day. We'll see you next time.